A new book written by an Iowa State University professor highlights how farm crises like the one here in Iowa in the 1980s are never far away in contemporary Iowa. It's my pleasure to have Dr. Pamela Riney-Kerberg with us. You are the author of the book you brought with you, When a Dream Dies. So you're a history professor.
Yes.
How did this become an interest of yours?
Moving to Iowa, it really struck me that there had been some big changes to rural Iowa since World War II, and I wanted to know why, and it became really clear that the 1980s had a devastating effect on this state.
Yeah, so it's interesting to me, personally interesting, because I'm married an Iowa farm boy. I'm not from here originally. So I know quite a bit about the farm crisis, but many people do not. It's sort of ancient history to some people, and if they are transplants to Iowa, they may not realize the horrible impact it had.
It was a really terrible decade for this state. Over the course of the decade, about a quarter of Iowa's farms disappeared, swallowed up by their neighbors. And it had a terrible economic impact on the state, but also a really terrible emotional impact on the people who went through it.
I know Iowa Public Television did a documentary about the farm crisis. There are some really gut-wrenching stories about the personal toll.
It was terrible. It was hard on men, but also women and children. Everybody who was involved in agriculture knew some really hard stories about those years. And it seemed like there was no way to get away from it. You know, even people who I talked to who had no connection whatsoever to agriculture, when they thought about those years, they would tell me, oh, those were terrible years. It was a hard time in this state.
I was looking at some information online about you and about the book, and was reading a Q&A, and this is just fascinating to me that bankers started being sort of schooled, if you will, about how to handle this.
That's right. Particularly, Extension was very concerned about stories they were hearing about bankers not understanding farmers, but also farmer violence or threatened violence against bankers. And so they started actually handing out pamphlets and teaching bankers about how to be better listeners and about how they could understand the language that farmers were using when they were talking about their farms.
Okay, so here we are 40 years later. What is the impact that we are still experiencing in this state?
I just had an interview a couple of weeks ago with a writer for a farm publication in the state who said that there's a whole lost generation of farmers. And it's true. The number of very young farmers in this state went down dramatically. It fell by more than half during the decade, which means that there are very, very few 50 and 60-year-old farmers.
Yeah. It's such a huge loss of legacy for people too, when you're talking about people who come from this long line of people who did this successfully for generations, and then to have something like this happen.
It was like a death in the family. And that was what a lot of people who weren't farmers didn't understand. It was like a death in the family. And nobody knew how to talk about that kind of a death. Nobody knew what to say. And so there was a whole lot of mental health concern. There was a whole lot of education of communities about what this all meant. It was a decade that really called on Iowans to be compassionate with each other and to learn more about what was happening to other people's families and other people's communities.
Yeah, and the ripple effect to everyone.
Yes, very much so.
Tell people where they can find the book.
Well, you can find it on Amazon. It can be ordered from University Press of Kansas, or you can ask your local bookstore to order it for you.
Okay, thank you so much for being here and highlighting a really important topic that has impacted countless lives.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right.